the entire arena went silent. 1 second Seth Rollins was standing tall, the world chanting "burn it down," the next everything just stopped. A sudden, brutal impact from behind sent him crashing face-first into the steel steps. Nobody knew what happened. Nobody saw who did it. The cameras caught only a shadow, a blur slipping through the smoke, gone before anyone could react. The crowd gasped. The commentary team froze mid-sentence. And Rollins wasn't moving. Referees rushed in. Medical staff flooded the ringside area. The chants died out, replaced by whispers and confusion. Is he okay? What happened? Who did that? Seth Rollins, the visionary, the face of Raw, lay motionless, clutching his ribs as his hand trembled against the mat. Blood trickled from the side of his mouth. The energy that once defined him, the fire, was gone. WWE cameras quickly cut away, transitioning to commercial as chaos broke out. But that wasn't the end, it was the start of something darker. Because this wasn't a storyline moment. It wasn't a scripted fall. Seth Rollins was really hurt. Backstage, officials scrambled. Triple H was seen shouting into his headset, demanding security footage. Producers locked off the area where Seth was attacked. Even the commentary team looked shaken when the broadcast returned. You could hear it in their voices, this wasn't part of the show. Seth Rollins had just been betrayed, and no one knew by who. When they finally showed a replay, the world froze. A tall, hooded figure stepped out from the crowd barrier moments before the hit. The movement was fast, deliberate, and filled with intent. One swing, one impact, and Rollins went down. The visionary, the man who carried Raw through the storm, was left broken on live television. The medical update that followed was even more disturbing: internal bleeding, possible rib fractures, and a concussion. Seth Rollins was rushed straight to a local hospital. The news spread across social media like wildfire. Hashtags exploded. Hashtag pray for Rollins, hashtag who attacked Seth, hashtag RAW chaos. Fans outside the arena gathered by the ambulance bay, chanting his name as the stretcher rolled past. Becky Lynch, seen visibly emotional, followed closely behind, tears in her eyes. There was no promo now, no segment, just reality setting in. Seth Rollins might not wrestle again. But that's when the entire wrestling world shook, because Roman Reigns arrived. Not as the tribal chief, not as the Universal Champion, but as the man who once called Seth his brother. Security tried to stop him from entering the hospital wing, but he brushed past them, his face set with quiet anger. He didn't care about protocols. He didn't care about titles. He came for Seth. Inside the hospital room, the beeping of the monitors filled the silence. Seth lay unconscious, oxygen mask over his face, his usually confident expression replaced by fragility. Roman stood over him, arms crossed, eyes burning with something the WWE Universe hadn't seen in years: guilt. He remembered the night he first turned on Seth years ago, the chair shot that broke the Shield. And now, seeing his brother like this, it all came back. A nurse entered, whispering that Seth had been stable for an hour. Roman nodded, barely responding. He stayed there, motionless, staring at Seth's bandaged side. Then, quietly, he spoke, barely above a whisper. "They tried to take you out, but I'm not letting them finish what they started." The tension outside the hospital was insane. Cameras and reporters filled the parking lot. Every WWE star on the roster posted something. Kevin Owens tweeted that wasn't part of the show. Finn Balor wrote, "You cross a line when you touch family." And then came the cryptic post from an anonymous account: "Just minutes after the attack footage aired, the vision will fade. Soon, the truth will be revealed." No one knew who it belonged to, but the tone was cold, deliberate, and personal. The next morning, footage leaked. Security cameras caught the mystery figure walking through the backstage hallway. Black hoodie, black gloves, no visible face. But the build, the posture looked eerily familiar. Fans began dissecting every frame. Some said it looked like Drew McIntyre. Others swore it was CM Punk. But there was something off, something no one could quite place. The way the person moved, confident, almost graceful, but methodical. Like someone who knew Seth Rollins better than anyone else. Meanwhile, Roman Reigns had made a decision. He wasn't leaving town. He canceled appearances, meetings, and even SmackDown commitments. The tribal chief stayed in the same city as Seth Rollins, visiting him every day while the investigation unfolded. He didn't talk to the press, didn't cut promos, didn't even post online. For the first time, the bloodline was silent. The next Raw opened without pyro. The crowd was dead quiet. On the Titantron, WWE aired a statement: "Seth Rollins remains in stable but critical condition following an unprovoked attack. The investigation is ongoing." The camera then cut to the ring. Roman Reigns was there. No entrance music. No swagger. Just silence and fire in his eyes. He grabbed the mic and looked straight into the camera. "You can boo me, you can cheer me, but this right here, this isn't about the tribal chief. This is about my brother. Somebody tried to end Seth Rollins' life. That's not a storyline. That's not entertainment. That's personal. So whoever you are, whoever did this, understand something. You didn't just attack the visionary. You woke up something that hasn't existed in a long time. You woke up the Shield. The arena exploded. The crowd chanted Shield. Shield. Shield as Roman dropped the mic and left. He didn't need to say more. The message was sent, he was coming for whoever touched Seth. Over the next few days, rumors exploded. WWE producers hinted that security footage was being analyzed frame by frame. A blurred still image showed part of a tattoo on the attacker's wrist, one that looked suspiciously like a symbol associated with one former Shield member, Dean Ambrose, now known as Jon Moxley. Fans lost it. Twitter went nuclear. Was Moxley back? Did he attack Seth? Why? Nobody could tell. AEW made no statement. Moxley himself went radio silent. But behind closed doors, Roman Reigns knew something. He'd seen the footage before it leaked. He saw the way the attacker moved. It wasn't Moxley. It wasn't Drew. It wasn't Punk. It was someone else. Someone closer. He sat beside Seth's bed one night, the glow of the monitors flickering on his face. Seth's eyes opened faintly, pain in every breath. Roman, they said it was an accident. His voice cracked. Roman shook his head. It wasn't. Seth tried to move, grimacing. You saw him. Roman nodded. Yeah, I saw enough. But it's not time yet. You just heal, brother. I'll handle this. The betrayal wasn't over, it was just beginning. Because the next message from the mysterious attacker dropped hours later. A voice recording, sent anonymously to WWE's headquarters. The vision had to fall, so the truth could rise. Roman heard it. Seth heard it. The entire world heard it. And for the first time since 2014, the thought returned, the idea that maybe, just maybe, the Shield story wasn't done. But Roman wasn't thinking about reunions. He was thinking about revenge. And when the truth finally came out, it would tear the wrestling world apart. Because the betrayal that almost killed Seth Rollins didn't come from an enemy. It came from family. Roman Reigns hadn't left the city. His hotel room had become a war room. Files, photos, screenshots, and security reports scattered across the desk. The Bloodline members had tried calling him, but he ignored them. He wasn't thinking about titles or matches. He was thinking about revenge. About justice. About finding whoever had the nerve to attack his brother and nearly end his life in front of the world. At the same time, WWE's investigation was coming to a close. Triple H released a statement saying that new footage had been uncovered, footage that revealed the full identity of the attacker. Fans waited on the edge of their seats. Social media was flooded with speculation. Theories ranged from Moxley's return to a Bloodline internal split, but the truth was worse than anyone imagined. The following Friday on SmackDown, the truth was broadcast live. Triple H walked down the ramp with a look that said everything. This wasn't storyline material. This was business. He paused in the middle of the ring, holding a USB drive. The Titantron flickered, and then the footage began to play. The same shadowed figure appeared on screen, walking through the backstage corridors. But this time, the camera switched angles, showing his face for a fraction of a second. The crowd gasped. Roman Reigns froze backstage, eyes widening. Because the face they saw wasn't Moxley, it wasn't Drew, and it wasn't Punk. It was someone Roman trusted, someone he had embraced, guided, and called us. The attacker was Jey Uso. The arena erupted in disbelief. The man who once stood beside Roman through war, through triumph, through the Bloodline's rise was the one who betrayed Seth Rollins. The Titantron cut off as chants of why echoed through the crowd. Jey wasn't there. He hadn't shown up for the show. His social media went dark hours before. Nobody knew where he was. Back at the hospital, Seth was watching from his bed. He looked pale, weak, but his eyes were blazing. He whispered Jey Uso under his breath, disbelief written all over his face. Roman, who had been sitting quietly at the corner of the room, stood up without saying a word. His jaw tightened, fists clenched. He stormed out of the room, phone in hand. Later that night, Roman tracked Jey down. Cameras caught glimpses of Roman arriving at a secluded parking lot, the headlights of his black SUV slicing through the darkness. Jey was there, leaning against a concrete wall, hood up, arms crossed. No smile. No fear. Just quiet defiance. Roman's voice was calm, but his tone was ice cold. Tell me you didn't do it, Us. Jey didn't answer. Roman took a step forward. You attacked him? Seth? My brother. Jey finally looked up, his voice low and bitter. You mean our brother? The same brother you turned your back on when you chose the Bloodline over everything. Roman blinked, confused. This isn't about me. Jey laughed, not the kind of laugh that means joy, but the kind that hides pain. Oh, it's always about you, Roman. Always. You call yourself the tribal chief, but you left the people who made you who you are. You left the Shield, you left Seth, and now you're acting like you care. Roman stepped closer, his face inches from Jey's. You almost killed him. Jey's jaw clenched. I didn't mean to go that far. It wasn't supposed to happen like that, but he had to fall. The vision had to end. Because Seth Rollins is the only man who ever stood in your way. The silence between them could have shattered glass. Roman stared at him, disbelief turning into fury. You went after him, because of me? Jey nodded, eyes filled with regret and anger. I was protecting the family. You've gone soft, Roman. You started caring about people who left us behind. I did what had to be done. Roman's hand shook, a mixture of rage and heartbreak. You don't get it, Us. He was never the enemy. You were supposed to be better than this. Jey shook his head, tears glistening. No, Roman. You were supposed to lead us, but you forgot who you are. Roman turned away, his breath heavy. You're out. You're done. Jey looked up one last time. Maybe. But remember this: every empire falls when the king starts caring about the past. Roman didn't respond. He walked away, but his silence said more than words ever could. The brotherhood that once defined wrestling's most dominant family had shattered. The next Raw was chaos. Roman Reigns opened the show again, this time in a dark suit, no music, no swagger, no crown, just fury. He stared into the camera and said only this: the bloodline isn't family anymore. Family doesn't do what Jey did. Family protects each other. Seth, if you can hear me, I promise you this: whoever touched you, whoever laid a hand on you, will never walk free again. Meanwhile, Seth Rollins had been discharged from the hospital but wasn't cleared to wrestle. His ribs were still taped, his face marked by bruises, but he showed up anyway. That night, to everyone's shock, Seth walked out onto the Raw stage with a microphone. No flashy outfit, no theme song, just plain black gear, bandages visible under his jacket. The crowd went wild chanting Seth. 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 He waited for the noise to die down, then spoke, voice raw with emotion. A week ago, I thought I was finished. I thought I'd never walk into this ring again. But then I saw the footage. I saw who did it. And you know what hurt the most? It wasn't the attack. It was the reason. He paused, looking down. They said it was to protect Roman, to protect the bloodline. But what happened to protecting your brothers? The crowd cheered louder, some even chanting Shield. 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 Seth nodded slowly. Roman, if you're watching, thank you. You didn't have to show up. You didn't have to care. But you did. That means something. Then his tone shifted. As for Jey Uso, you made the biggest mistake of your life. You tried to end the vision, but all you did was light a fire you can't put out. Roman came out, then the crowd roaring louder than ever. The two men faced each other for the first time since the hospital. For a long, tense minute, neither said a word. Then Roman extended his hand. The audience held their breath. Seth hesitated, then took it. The place exploded. They didn't hug. They didn't speak. They just stood side by side, united by pain and betrayal. It was a moment that reminded everyone of what wrestling was built on: brotherhood, loyalty, and the power to rise after being broken. Later that night, backstage footage showed Seth telling Roman quietly, "You don't need to fight this battle for me." Roman shook his head. "I'm not fighting for you, brother. I'm fighting for what's left of us." In the weeks that followed, tension built toward Survivor Series. Rumors spread that Roman and Seth would team up for one night only to hunt down Jey Uso. The WWE Universe called it the impossible reunion, a Shield rebirth born not from nostalgia but necessity. But behind the scenes, something darker was brewing. Another anonymous message appeared online, reading, "One falls, one rises." The vision fades, but the architect builds again. No one knew who sent it. Some believed it was Jey. Others suspected a deeper conspiracy, that Jey wasn't the mastermind, but just another pawn. Seth's health slowly improved. Roman grew quieter, colder, more calculated. Both men knew this wasn't over. The betrayal had opened a door that couldn't be closed. The final segment of Raw that month left everyone speechless. Roman and Seth were in the ring, ready to speak about Survivor Series. But before a word was said, the lights went out. The Titantron flickered. A grainy video appeared of someone walking through the same corridor where Seth had been attacked. The same voice echoed, "The vision had to fall, but I'm not done yet." The crowd gasped as the figure stepped into the light. It wasn't Jey Uso. It wasn't anyone from the bloodline. It was a man in a black leather jacket, smirking. The voice was unmistakable. Jon Moxley. The feed cut instantly. Roman and Seth stood frozen in the ring. The Shield had been reborn, but not as brothers, as enemies. And as Raw faded to black, the world realized one thing: Seth Rollins almost died because of betrayal, but now he was coming back not for redemption, but for vengeance. The vision was broken. The Shield was divided. And the war that started in betrayal was far from over.